even though you're not going yourself, I would like to have you just consider a few minutes this morning the AIM program that is a part of the Foreign Missionary Division. I might say that aimers are God-called and God-sent individuals. Now, let me just mention something about the question and answer form that is being sent out. There is a space below each answer for you to put in whatever notes or whatever input you might want to write down to remember. So that's the reason there is a space between each question and answer on this form. But as I said, aimers are God-called and God-sent. They don't have to be a preacher. An aimer does not have to be a preacher, but they must love God and love the lost. When you go, if you'll just give me your attention a few minutes before you look at the questions. I am going to cover the questions, but I want to just say a few things before we go to the questions. When you go under the AIM program, you are not your own boss. You are assisting a missionary that you will be working with. But you may not be your own boss, but your role will be very important. It is necessary that you work under the direction of the missionary. Your role and how you handle yourself may determine your future. Because as you go under the AIM program, you're always working under the missionary, asking him how you can assist in any way possible. And as an aimer, it could be a time of testing in your life. It really, well, I guess we could say you may realize and find out really what you're made of. The reason I say that, several months ago, there was an uprising in El Salvador. And there were 2 aimers there at that time that actually virtually ran for their lives. Because with the civil war that was going on in that country, we had 2 missionary families there, Brother Bruce Howe and Brother Monty Showalter. They lived in an area of the city of El Salvador, and the aimers were living fairly close. Well, that is the area where there was a lot of shooting going on. In fact, some of the missionaries sent pictures of bullet holes in their garage and in various other areas. So it may be a real time of testing to find out if you're really made out of the right stuff. Really, whether you can do it or whether you can't. It may be very hard work at times. And it really may be a time to find out if you can really do it, as I've mentioned before. And I want to use an example of what I'm saying. Acts chapter 13. Whoever teaches Acts has probably covered this area. But Acts chapter 13, verse 5, briefly mentions a man by the name of John Mark. Now, John Mark went with Paul and Barnabas on a missionary trip. While on that trip, something must have happened that kind of shook John Mark, because he turned around and went home. Well, the 15th chapter of the book of Acts, you have an account where Paul and Barnabas were getting ready to leave on another missionary tour. Barnabas, the Bible says, wanted to take John Mark with them again. But Paul apparently just shook his head and said, Barnabas, I'm sorry, he left us one time before, and we're not going to take the chance of him doing it again. It brought division between Paul and Barnabas. And as you look in the scripture, Barnabas was so sold on John Mark that he decided, well, I'm not going to travel with you, Paul. The Bible says Paul chose Silas to travel with him. Barnabas chose John Mark to travel with him. Now, you hear a lot about Paul and Silas, but you hear hardly anything else. I mean, it's almost nil as to what you hear about Barnabas and John Mark. John Mark just didn't have it. But Barnabas wasn't willing to accept that fact. Now, as you look at it, I honestly would put John Mark in the category of an aimer. He was going to help. He was going to assist. But for some reason, he just couldn't make it. You can go to the Old Testament and find an account there of where you have Elijah and Elisha. Elijah was the prophet of God, and Elisha was the one that was going to be an aimer. He's not called an aimer, but I'm simply showing you that even in the Scripture, there were those that went and worked with the man of God. And so Elisha was going with Elijah, and he was almost like his shadow. Every place Elijah went, Elisha was there. Until finally one day, Elisha asked Elijah, he said, I want a double portion of your spirit. Well, he was willing to stay right there every place he went. Everything he did, Elisha was with Elijah. And I really think that as you look at it, you realize that Elisha would have been considered an aimer. Let's go back to the New Testament. Jesus had 12 disciples. They were with him on many occasions to see what he did, how he did it, how he reacted, how he responded, and they saw many things take place. They were, in a sense, they were aimers to Jesus. They were there to help when he fed the 5,000. They were there to help when he fed the 4,000. Virtually any time he needed help, they were there to assist, to respond, to meet whatever need he had. And when you consider the AIM program, that's really what the AIM program is. It is going to assist the missionary, being a help to him in the time of need. Now, let's look at the questions here that have been prepared. And let me just say this at the beginning. The AIM program is not for sightseers. It's not someone that just wants to go to the field and just look at the sights. In fact, we have some MKs here that would relate to you that it isn't all peaches and cream when you get on the field. There is a lot of work to do. You do see the sights, but that's not why you're there. You are there to be a help, to be used of God, and neither is the AIM program a summer expedition tour. It's not just, you're just going to go out and just kind of look around for the summer. But as you're in Bible school here and thinking about your future, some of you are seniors, some of you are juniors, wondering what lies ahead. I really believe that if you feel God directing you to be of help to a missionary under the AIM program, I think it's worth considering. I really think I could say that just don't go through life aimlessly. Maybe I could also say don't plan your future aimlessly. Let the Lord give you some direction. Question number one is, what is the Associates in Missions program? And I'll try to say, just fasten your seatbelt. I'm going to try to hurry as fast as I can. I do want to open it up for questions at the end. Maybe we won't cover all of your questions, so just jot it down or keep it in mind. We'll come to it at the close. What is the Associates in Missions program? The Associates in Missions program of the United Pentecostal Church, called AIM, is designed to provide missionaries with the help they may need, whether spiritual or physical, to reach a lost world. AIM is a short-term, self-supporting program with no missionary PIM funds expended. Maybe we could just give another explanation of the AIM. It is a short-term experience without a 4-year commitment. I'll run that by again. It is a short-term experience without a 4-year commitment. Now, maybe we could just say that there are 3 types of aimers. There are those who kind of like the adventure. They just like the experience. Then the second type of an aimer is the individual that wants to free the hands of the missionary to do additional missionary work. Then the third point is that an aimer can go with preparation for a missionary appointment. Today, we have quite a number of fully appointed missionaries that in the past went and served under the AIM program to really see if it was the call of God on their life or if they might have been mistaken. We have had aimers go to the field, and within 1 month, they were, well, in fact, less time than that. Within a period of 1 to 2 weeks, they were coming back home because they were shaking their heads saying, this isn't for me. But really, an AIM program will let you know if it's really the call of God on your life or if you're to go in another direction. Question number 2, what are the areas of AIM involvement? Evangelism, teaching, and preaching are often areas of involvement along the secular responsibility. Evangelism, teaching, and preaching are often areas of involvement along with secular responsibilities, including office assistant, building construction, medical expertise, teaching missionary kids, operating printing presses, and strengthening the hands of the missionary in many untold ways. AIM is really a training program. Question number 3, who is eligible to apply? And the answer is anyone with a Holy Ghost burden desiring to expend themselves for Jesus may apply. The Foreign Missionary Division is looking for dedicated Pentecostals to spend time abroad. If you have something to offer a resident missionary overseas, you are eligible to apply. And one thing I just happened to remember, we don't have a question here. What age is involved for the AIM program? You need to be 18 years of age, and then we take them all the way up to however old they will go. We've had them 75 years of age. I received a call yesterday from an aimer that is getting ready to go. She is age 60, called to find out if she might be able to take her son, who is 33, with her. I've never had that one. She is 60. He's 33, married. His wife is going to have some kind of a, expedition this summer. I don't know what she's going to do. But her son asked her the other day, he said, well, Mom, he said, why can't I go with you? He's married. And she said, well, I'll have to call the office and find out. I don't know if he can go yet myself. But anyway, the age 18, and then however old you're able to walk and get around. Question number 4, must I be married? The answer is no. But many aimers have gone to the field single, and it is most rewarding as they dedicate their talents to help others. Aimers have served from age 18 to 75. Well, I did have it there. Although many married couples have been involved in the AIM program, so have many singles. And I might say many have gone to the field single and returned married to an American. I wanted to get that in. To an American. Question number 5. How long are the AIM terms? An AIM term ranges from a minimum of, let me have you cross out 3 and put 1 month to 1 year. However, this term can be extended depending on the field needs and the burden of the aimer. We had one aimer that had hers extended 8 times. She was on the field for 8 years and came home and got married. Question number 6. How much does the AIM term cost? And the answer to that is the cost depends on the location, the length of stay, and how much you are willing to sacrifice. A budget is determined by the prospective missionary supervisor, and it normally includes the approximate cost of a round-trip airfare to the field and back, housing, food, travel, and a few more things, etc. An aimer must have on deposit the round-trip airfare and at least 1/2 of the projected budget, with the other half firmly pledged. Now that will give you some idea of what all is involved. Let me just give you when someone wants to go to the field, we usually have to write to that missionary, ask for a budget. Now I have here a budget for the country of Liberia. We cannot get aimers into Liberia now, so I'm only just using this as an example. The missionary sent the budget for that aimer. The round-trip airfare was going to cost $1,500. It would cost for food and lodging on the field $600 a month. And so the bottom line for that missionary would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of $9,000 to $10,000 for 10 months, because we do encourage aimers to take out insurance before going. We've tried to protect the aimer as well as the Foreign Missionary Division, because even though you have stateside insurance, many times that will not cover you once you leave the States. And so we have a policy that has been prepared that cost for an individual, it costs right at $80 a month. And I know for a Bible school student that really sounds like a lot of money. But if you try to get stateside insurance here that will cover you over there, it'll cost you far more than this. We found this to be a very good policy. It protects the aimer while he is on the field. All right, number 7, where does the money come from for an AIM tour? Now, before I answer that, let me just say that the Mormon Church, they have a program set up where each parent tries to raise enough money to send their son overseas for 2 years. They foot the entire bill. Now, this program, the AIM program, the question is, where does the money come from? The program is designed to be self-supporting. However, this does not necessarily mean the aimer must furnish the cost solely from personal funds. If approved for an AIM assignment, he can solicit financial assistance from his local church, from relatives, and from friends. All donors will be given tax-deductible missionary credit for the amount given. It is a great opportunity for parents to help their children financially in finding God's will for their lives. A few weeks ago, I received a call from a doctor who is in the United Pentecostal Church, and he said, I have a son. He's getting ready to graduate in May. He said, we want to send him on an AIM tour for the summer overseas. He said, I will pay the bill. Well, it is working out very good for actually another boy in the same church. They are both going to the Philippines this summer. We'll work there with the missionary. Both parents are footing the bill. Now, not every family is able to do it, and when that isn't the case, when they're not able to it, you can solicit from your home church, from relatives, from friends, and it is really helping our young people tremendously. Question number 8. Can the aimer deputize to raise funds? The answer, deputational travel is reserved for fully appointed missionaries. And in other words, the answer to number 8 is no, an aimer cannot deputize. That's only for fully appointed missionaries. The aimer is not allowed to seek the help of the foreign mission district director in scheduling services for him or in raising funds. Question number 9. How does an applicant apply for AIM appointment? And the answer, if one feels the AIM program is what he is looking for, and if he is willing to make some sacrifices and pour himself into a rewarding experience, he can begin the process by completing an Associates in Missions application and sending it to the Foreign Mission Division. Accompanying letters of recommendation from the pastor, from the Bible college president, if applicable, and your district superintendent, if the individual is a minister, will speed the processing time. Now, I did not bring any application forms with me, as we prefer to receive your letter of intent before we open the file. We need to know where you're interested in going, that is the country, the length of your stay, and what you can do. I was in a church over the weekend, and there was a man came up to me and inquired about going under the AIM program. He's married, has several children, wanted to go. First of all, he is not a preacher. He is not a teacher. And I asked him, I said, well, what can you do? And he just kind of shrugged his shoulders. And I said, well, we need to know what an individual can do. I said, what country are you interested in? Well, I just want to go. Well, we can't do too much until we get some direction from the individual. Now, as a pastor, he's got to have some direction. And those of you that are graduating, probably several, you already know where you're going. But you got that direction on your knees in prayer. As you were asking God, God, where should I go? God, when should I go? Because I believe God's timing is also involved in the AIM program, as well as pastoring, evangelizing, whatever it may be. Question 10, how long does it take to process an application? This is probably one of the biggest complaints we receive in working on an application. They say, it takes so long. Here's the reason. Upon receipt of an application, an appropriate letter of recommendation, copies of the file, did I read that correctly? Upon receipt of an application and appropriate letters of recommendation, copies of the file will be sent to the supervising missionary and the regional field supervisor of the field of interest. Once all necessary letters of recommendation are in hand, including a letter of invitation and budget proposal from the supervising missionary, your file will be presented to the Foreign Missions Administrative Committee for action. The readiness of the file for FMAC action will depend upon how soon letters of recommendation mailed to selected references are received back in the office. So, I want to show you just what happens. An application comes in. We want to know from the pastor, do you feel that this individual would be of help on the field? Then, if he's a minister, we send one to the district superintendent. Do you feel this minister will be a blessing on the field? Now, it may take him several days to answer because he may be in revival. He may be off to a general conference. He may be off to a district conference. And so this waits until he gets back, and one day, you know, in the hustle and bustle, he kind of looks down on his, oh, I've got to get that taken care of. And he, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then the phone rings, and something else happens. And so, you know, it takes a while for that one to come in. We need a recommendation from the missionary where the individual would be going. We need a recommendation from the regional field supervisor of the region where he will be going. And, of course, this one comes from the applicant. That's really the beginning. I should have had that one first. So there are several replies that we wait on before we can do it. Then after all of that comes in, all of the committee members, Brother Sism, our foreign mission director, Brother Judd, the secretary, myself, coordinator of spatial ministries, Brother Miller, director of promotions and publications, we all four look at it. We have a committee meeting, and if everything is fine, then we make contact with a foreign missionary board member who visits the applicant. Why all the fuss? Simply because we are sending a representative from the United Pentecostal Church to a foreign field that we want to be able to say we back him 100%. We can't just have someone in, you know, write a letter and send it in and say, oh, here's your man. It won't work. It won't work. And the older you get, the more you realize it. That it's not a 1 week process. It does take quite a bit of time. But keep in mind, all of these letters are going out. For example, if the regional field supervisor is traveling in his region and it takes weeks for his mail to catch up with him, it'll take weeks before we get the answer back. So when you send one in, pray and say, God, I want to go help everybody to be prompt and reply with a good affirmative answer. So there are a number of things that take place when an application comes in. And one other thing I failed to mention, that when the budget comes back from the field, if the budget for an aimer to go for a year is over $10,000, then that applicant is to meet the Foreign Missionary Board in person. Because again, there's a lot of money invested. There's a lot of money coming in from friends, from the home church, and maybe neighboring churches who know you. So there are a number of things that take place when an application is being processed. Number 11, to whom is the aimer responsible? The answer is the aimer works under the direct supervision of the resident missionary as they will fulfill the assignments he outlines. And I'm trying to hurry here. 12, what would living conditions be like? And boy, that's quite a question. Circumstances vary considerably from field to field. If you're going to Africa, it would be different than if you were going to Europe, or if you were going to South America, or if you were going to Asia, or if you were going to the Pacific region. They vary from region to region. In most cases, Aimers live in housing provided by the national church or the missionary. But I want to insert something here. We do not recommend the Aimer to live with the missionary, because no house is big enough for to keep you busy that you really won't have time to daydream too much. The aimer must be flexible and willing to adapt to a very different culture and lifestyle. Conditions are considerably different from those, and there's two words that were left out, and I didn't catch it until this morning as I was going over it in the room. Those you are accustomed to. You are was left out. If you want to just insert that in there. An aimer may sleep on a mat. You know what? When you get on the field, you will realize how blessed you were in Bible school. I'll continue. An aimer may sleep on a mat on the floor, bathe out of a basin, and no doubt eat strange food. And those of you that have a time even eating hamburgers, it's going to be different over there. So, in some instances, the aimer will not know the language and face the frustration of speaking through an interpreter. However, all of us must pattern our lives after the Lord and remember that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor. We can endure all. The servant is not greater than his master. Now, where are the needs? We've listed a number of countries. Now we have down the Caribbean here, and that includes many countries. There's many countries down through the Caribbean. You've got Haiti, you've got Dominican Republic, you've got St. Croix, St. Nevis, St. Kitts, the Windward Islands, all of that chain of islands down here. Many areas would be able to use an aimer. You have Central America, which includes many countries. In fact, some of you here this morning are hoping to go into Central America. There's the country of China. And let me just say this. We have a couple right now. I intended to bring that out later, but let me just state what happened. We had a young lady by the name of Joyce Cooper from the state of Alabama. She went to Korea under the AIM program to teach English. While they're in Korea, she had a powerful influence on a lot of the Koreans, and they were baptized in Jesus' name, filled with the Holy Ghost. She was teaching outsiders, not Pentecostal. Now, after she was over there for quite a while, she felt her need for Bible school. She came back to the States, went to Bible school, after graduating, applied to go to Hong Kong under the AIM program. She went to Hong Kong. While in Hong Kong, a door opened up where she was going to be able to go into China and teach English to some business people in China. She went into China, was commuting back and forth into Hong Kong, into China, and on her commuting back and forth, there happened to be a young man who went from the state of Indiana to Hong Kong. Well, he was single and she was single, and commuting back and forth, they started looking at each other, and finally they married. Today, that married couple is approved. They should be leaving within the next 30 days. They are going to China, will live in China, and really great things we feel will happen. But a businessman in the United Pentecostal Church has a business in China
and he said, say, I want a couple to come and work with me. He said, I'll pay them, but they can start, doing various things to witness for the Lord. And I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I do know this. I visited Joyce Cooper when she was teaching English in China, and it was very impressive. She had a tremendous rapport with the Chinese people, and they loved her, and God has used her in an outstanding way. But this girl has spent years under the AIM program. She left America single. I just want to emphasize that. I'm not saying that the AIM program is your answer. I'm not saying that. I don't mean to imply that. But what I mean is this. She was willing to dedicate her life to God. I should have continued on. She was willing to dedicate her life to God, and God saw that, hey Lord, send a fellow my way. It was strange how it all worked out. But God is blessing them. Let's continue fast. 14. How will Amos know that what he is to do when he arrives on the field? And the answer is a job description will be prepared, giving the aimer direction as to what is expected of him. The aimer's involvement in the work will depend on the individual or couple. Each aimer eventually finds his own place, which is compatible with his abilities and personality. The missionary will attempt to accommodate his wishes as much as possible, as long as it doesn't disrupt the present structure of the work. Now, a job description is simply telling point by point what you will do. Question 15. If an aimer is interested in a specific field, how can he find out about the need? You simply contact the missionary. One can send a letter to the missionary in care of the Foreign Missionary Division, and mail will be forwarded to the missionary. We try to send our mail out from the office to the missionary the 5th, the 15th, and the 25th of each month. You just want to keep that in mind and want to make sure it gets there fast. Number 16, where are aimers working now? And there are 22 different countries listed here where aimers are now working, and there are additional countries where aimers are under appointment but have not been able to go yet. Question 17, how many aimers are on location now? There are at this time 71 aimers on location, and there are 42 additional that have been approved but do not have their budget raised yet. They're simply waiting to get enough money so that they can go. 71 on location, 42 under appointment but do not have their budget raised. Number 18, are aimers better qualified with a Bible school education? In most cases, yes, depending on what you will be involved in. Bible school training prepares a student in the Word as well as getting along with others. Time taken to sharpen an axe is never lost. And really, the reason that's you may think it's out of place by being there, but not really. Because that's what you're doing in Bible school. You're sharpening the axe to be able to do a better job when you leave and when you arrive on the field. However, Bible school is not an essential element for AIM assignment. Your life experiences and past work for the Lord often equal many lessons learned in Bible school. Really what we're saying, that for a younger person, it definitely is better to have a Bible school education. If a person is older, they have pastored, they have had many years of experience, that helps them to be qualified to go under the AIM program. Number 19, would a secular college degree be helpful? The answer is yes. In teaching MKs and in Bible schools, many countries are requesting proof of college degrees. Now, I mentioned the budget for the country of Liberia, and the missionary related in his budget proposal, he said the person would have to have some type of degree and experience in teaching to be able to get into that country under the AIM program. The final question is number 20. What have Aimers said about their experiences? And we have listed here a number of statements that come from the various Aimers. It has been the greatest experience of my life, is what came from one Aimer. Another one said, I have gained spiritually and mentally from all of my experiences. Another said, it is impossible to explain all the fantastic things that we are involved in, but I can see the growth that is taking place in my life as God continues to work in and through me. Another said, it is such a special time for us to do God's work on the foreign field. And finally, one said, and this was from an MK, a missionary kid, stated this, while under the AIM program, I used to be scared to testify, but I'm finding out that I love it more every day. Now, we've tried to cover the questions that come up over and over again. Maybe we have not answered your question, and I would like to take some time and give you an opportunity to ask some questions, and if we can be of help, we'll do so. If we can't answer it, we'll tell you. Yes. Yes. The question is, would the application, the AIM application, be the same if you knew a missionary? Yes, it would be, because we have to go from zero right on through. Now, it will help. It would help if you know the missionary, because sometimes if a stranger just writes to the field and says, oh, I want to come, well, the missionary's wondering, who is he? What's he done or what's she done? Would we be compatible? Could we get along? Yes. All right. Thank you. I told Brother Griffin last night, I said, we did not put the address of the Foreign Mission Division on this. If you want to just turn to the front, here it is. The address is 8855 Dunn Road, D-U-N-N, Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri, 63042. Phone number, 314-837-7300. But we do want a letter and not a phone call. Simply to open up the file. Now, because a person sends in an application doesn't mean they're going. Sometimes the applicant changes his mind and decides, well, maybe I don't want to go right now. And then sometime later, they may write in and say, please reactivate my file. I am now ready to go. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Just put it to the Foreign Mission Division. You can address it to me if you want. I'm the one that does the processing of the application. J.S. Leaman, Leaman. Well, Brother Griffin, it looks to me like all bases are covered. Yes. Yes. The question was asked, is it legitimate to sell candy to raise funds to go? Yes. In fact, yes. All right. It does now. I guess that question would be answered. He wants to know what does the aimer usually do when he goes to the field. It would really depend on what his qualifications are. Now, coming out of Bible school, that definitely would be a plus in being able to go as a Bible school teacher. Um, we have now, for those who do not feel, preaching ability, carpentry is definitely one that can be used. Being an MK teacher, teaching the missionary kids, this is very vital anymore. And here's the reason. The cost of education overseas is staggering. With the cost of living, which means that it costs so much more to live overseas than it does stateside. In the city of Hong Kong, the rent in that city starts at around $2,000 a month. And that's for a one-bedroom apartment. Education in many of these countries is $10,000 a year per student. And that is in many, many areas. And so that's why it is working out best if we can have someone that will go overseas and teach the missionary kids. We have some who go overseas to teach English. This has happened in Hong Kong, in Korea, in several of in the Philippines, in several of our overseas work. Maybe if you have a skill that is different, many things are usable overseas. Definitely. You ask, is musical ability a plus? Definitely. No question. Yes. That was a 12 month. That was a 12 month. I would say the average cost could be calculated. Figure your round trip ticket to wherever, and that will vary. Now like going to South America, parts of South America would be very inexpensive. If you go clear down to Argentina or all the way to Rio de Janeiro, it costs a few dollars to get there. But then you could probably calculate about $500 to $600 a month for housing and food. This is about what we had to figure for the fellows going to the Philippines. Their round-trip ticket and about $500 a month. Now that could vary because in some cases they have living facilities where it would not cost the individual. Basically all they would be paying for is food. But in many cases, I've noted on the budget, it's round trip plus about $500 a month. Now we have a couple that that is wanting to go to Australia and commute 4 times a year to Papua New Guinea. They cannot get into that country to live, but they can get, like a visit of a month. Well, in that case, the budget is out of sight. And it is a family on top of that, which means more money. But normally $500 to $600 a month is what it has been. It's what it has been running. Girls, do you have any questions? Yes. Not necessarily. The question is asked, if I go to the field and teach English, I would probably need, a secular education as well. Not always, but I will say that in that case, a Bible school education is outstanding for this reason. And the amazing thing is, you can go to Korea, teach a Korean English, but you don't have to know Korean. And the same thing with Chinese. Joyce Cooper went into China. She did not know the Chinese language. She taught them English, and they learned. There is a process that they go through that is very helpful. So don't let it block you. If you're thinking about going to an area, if you don't know that language, that doesn't mean that it's totally out. Now, I will say, if you were going to South America, down where you either got Spanish or Portuguese, you almost needed to go there. And I'm sure the Shrekhouse boys would admit, stating that to go to Honduras, you better have the language. If you don't, you're going to have to spend the first few months learning the language. And young people can do it. The older folks struggle, but young people just out of Bible school have gone to the field, and it's amazing what they've been able to do. Learn that language in a matter of months. Yes. Now, the girl that went to China, she did get paid. They not only gave her a little salary, they provided her an apartment to stay in. We do have some areas, very few, but we do have some areas. But I will say on China, it appears that door is even starting to close. In fact, we're trying to get this couple in there as fast as we can, because it appears the door to China is starting to close. Any other questions? Yes. You mean overseas? Well, again, the question was asked, where are the missionary kids going to school? It depends on the country. Some are able to go to school now, like in South America. If they know the Spanish language or the Portuguese language, then, they could go to a school. But if not, ACE or the ABECA video teaching series, that has been used in a number of areas. In fact, we're trying to get a library of that particular education, so that when a sixth grader is finished, then it can be sent to another MK who is going into the sixth grade, and that's very expensive, but it is working out. Brother Griffin, I think this is the end. I've enjoyed being here. And if we can be of help to you, we want to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Leaman, so much. And we appreciate him being here. And, of course, his busy schedule, I almost feel ashamed to ask him to come. He was in Duluth yesterday. We're all the way from there back down here, and so he was traveling around the country all the time. But he was willing to come and give us some insight into a program that many of you have been talking about, and many of you are going to use. And so if there are any further questions now, as we're dismissed, you talk to him before he gets out of here, because he's the man that handles it. And so we're so glad, Brother Leaman, that you could come. Lord bless each of you. You're dismissed in Jesus' name.
Please like, comment, and subscribe.